99 hustles. 99 hustles.
Welcome to the 99 Hustles podcast. We are back with another episode and another exceptional guest. Today we have Cody Berman on the show today. How's it going, Cody? Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Nick. I'm super excited to chat with you and Fees today about Etsy printables and getting your digital download side hustle on.
Absolutely. Cody is a serial entrepreneur that runs flytofy.com and is also the host of the Fi Show Guys podcast. Cody's also co-founder of the Financial Freedom Summit, where thousands of marketers and content creators go to sharpen their skills. In addition to that, Cody's also a member of the FIRE community, which advocates for financial independence. It's a long list of accomplishments that we would love to go into more detail in, which we'll have on the episode today. But really, Cody's done a really great job of creating and selling digital products on Etsy. And he also offers a course to teach other entrepreneurs on how to do the same. First and foremost, Cody, how long were you working on your side hustle before you fully became self-employed?
All right, so side hustle, I noticed you said singular there. Which one are we talking about here? Because I have had
side hustles. I apologize.
99 hustles.
Pick one.
99
hustles. You can go pick one.
I have had a long and tumultuous side hustle journey, to be honest. So I guess I'll take you back to kind of my first real side hustle. So when I was 19, I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that book, but that thing was a life changer for me.
We have not had a podcast episode yet where that book hasn't been brought up. It's so crazy.
Oh man, life changing.
It's definitely in the top 5 of entrepreneurs must read.
Absolutely. So I read that, and one thing that really struck a chord with me was Tim was like, money and time don't have to be related on a linear basis. You don't have to work X number of hours, earn X number of dollars per hour, and that's all you can make. With entrepreneurship, you can kind of do all the work up front and then enjoy the fruits of your labor forever. So once I kind of had that revelation, I'm like, wait, if I work really, really hard for a couple of years, build up some businesses that are either passive or semi-passive income, I can start to have these recurring revenue streams forever. So the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey started with me actually co-founding a disc golf manufacturing company. Have you guys heard of disc golf before?
Nah.
No. Okay. So it's like ball golf, except instead of hitting the ball into a hole, you're throwing these discs. They're like round plastic discs, kind of like a Frisbee, but a little bit heavier, into what's called a pin. And it's like a thing that's hanging with chains. It's the same thing. It has pars, birdies, bogeys, like everything's the same, except just the tools that you're using are different. So I'd kind of been in that world for 10 years, just playing the sport. And I thought, okay, there are a lot of opportunities in this sport to make money and create a business. And I think that I can do a lot of things better than a lot of the older companies are doing. So I started that company, had been running it for a couple years through college. I was 19 when I co-founded that. Then I kind of started getting introduced to the personal finance world. Sorry, I'm taking a long-winded approach to the answer here, Fees, but got introduced to the personal finance world. I was actually living in Australia while my girlfriend was studying abroad, and I had a lot of time on my hands. And so I just said, screw it, I'm going to start a blog, because I was really getting into the personal finance stuff. I loved how these people were saving up a bunch of money, retiring at 30, 35, 40. And I had just gotten so engrossed in this community and thought I could add value to people, more my demographic. So people who are 20, people who are 21. Started that blog, Fly to Fi, that you talked about in the beginning of the episode. Yeah. Shortly after came the podcast, The Fi Show. Then after that, it was just a whirlwind. I started saying yes to a bunch of freelancing gigs. So I was doing copywriting. I was doing email. I was doing ads. Oh, man, what else was I doing?
Were you on Upwork or?
I was doing stuff on Fiverr, but most of it was through the personal finance community, like through Facebook groups, through recommendations. I did some web development stuff. Like it was literally just like, hey, Cody did a good job on this. Is he still available? And I'm like, yeah, like, hell yeah, I'd love to do that.
So, and where were you working at full time while you were like started your hustles on the side?
So this is all pre me working full time. I was going to get into that in a second. So I'm kind of doing all that stuff. I'm out of school. I graduated in December of 2017 from college with a business finance degree. And then I went to Australia for 6 months with my girlfriend because I just wanted to take a little gap and I thought it'd be a lot of fun. That's when I started doing all those random side hustles because I wanted to make money. I didn't have my full-time job yet. But once I got back to the States in June of 2018, I started full-time as a commercial real estate analyst. And so this was at a big bank. I had to go dress up every day. And first month wasn't too bad. Second, third month started to kind of not like it. And like 6 months in, I'm like, man, this sucks. Like, I hate this.
That honeymoon phase ended pretty quick for you.
Very quickly. But the cool thing was I kind of built these things up on the side, and they were making a decent amount of money. But I think the big thing for me, and to kind of really circle around that question and come back to the answer here, is like I was keeping my expenses really low. And I know you'd mentioned I'm a part of the FIRE community. People use frugality as a tool. So I'll kind of tell you my exact situation. I was saving as much money as I could. I was 7 months into my job. I had 35 grand saved, which to some people might sound like nothing. To other people who don't have much savings, that might sound like a ton. But my expenses were $1,000 a month. Like I was scraping. I was not doing anything. I was saving as much as I possibly could. So to me, going back to that Tim Ferriss thing, I was thinking back to the money time conundrum, like how they relate to each other. I'm like, hold on, I got 35K saved. I'm spending $1,000 a month. That's 35 months to basically try to do whatever the hell I want in entrepreneurship. If I fail, I fail. I go back and I get another job in corporate America, whatever. But I'm like, I'm just going to kind of take a leap. So I just went full time with all my hustles. And this is a longer story than I'd like to get into today, but ended up going on a book tour with this author, Grant Sabatier, author of Financial Freedom. That later came to be a relationship that turned into the Financial Freedom Summit. And yeah, now here I am kind of amidst that journey. I discovered, and I know this is going to be the focus of today, I discovered Etsy printables and been loving that ever since. And then ultimately decided to start a course teaching other people how to follow in our footsteps.
So what I failed to mention in the intro is that Cody's actually the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you were doing these freelancing gigs. I guess like my question is like, where did you like learn the skills to like do those things? Like you were developing websites for people. You were, out there on Fiverr, helping people with all different types of things that they needed for like their business or their personal life. Like in order to like complete those tasks, you have to have the ability to do that. Like you said, you studied finance in school. You didn't necessarily study like website development or anything like that. Where were you learning? Did you already know how to do those skills or, before you decided to sell that?
Yeah, dude, I love this question because this is something I get asked so often is like all my friends will ask me, how do I side hustle? How do I start doing this? Nobody knows what the hell they're doing when they first start side hustling. Like I didn't have a clue. I used maybe 5% of the stuff I learned in school, but I learned most of this just from trial and error, and a whole lot of errors came before any successes came.
Yeah.
So like website development, I had been building the disc golf manufacturing website and then my Fly to Fi, the blog website. I mean, man, those things were pieces of crap when I started. They were horrible. My blog posts were horrible. My emails were horrible. But after, iteration after iteration, figuring out what actually converts, whether it's a blog post, whether it's email engagement, once you just start failing a bunch of times on your own stuff, then you can start to market those skills because you've done all the failing up front and someone will basically pay you so they don't have to make those same mistakes and have those same failures. So that's honestly where all of those skills came from, is just like trial and error. I didn't have any classes, didn't learn this in school. It's just hustling and not giving up when I get kicked to the ground.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like that's a reoccurring theme we hear with all the different entrepreneurs we talk to, is that, there really isn't a specific blueprint to figuring out what hustle to do and how it works. And it's really just, put your feet in the fire and try to figure it out. Right. Like at the end of the day.
Was that a pun?
The pun I was going to use actually going to use was a loss ain't a loss. It's a lesson. But I mean, that's been repeated a lot of times, but no, that's incredible. So along the way, you've, made some mistakes, but what would you say was probably like the biggest lesson you learned throughout this process?
Ooh, let's see. Where to even start? I mean, at first, I think I just went straight for the money, and that's probably not the best approach. Instead of like content first or getting an audience first. And I've heard it so many times, like you're never going to be successful if you don't have a product or service that sells by itself. You could have the best SEO, best marketing, best ads in the world, but if your product or service is absolute junk, and like you wouldn't even want to purchase it or whatever the things you're trying to do, you're not going to be very successful. So I think I started just hitting the marketing way too hard. And I was just like money hungry, trying to figure out how I could become financially independent by 25 from Tim Ferriss feeding me the 4-hour work week and all this stuff. And that was definitely not the right approach. I should have went with, get awesome content, get an awesome product, get an awesome service first. Then you can start to kind of fine tune the marketing process, get your funnel right, so you have the right people coming and buying your stuff. That was probably one of the biggest things. Another thing that's coming to mind is I was always just such a perfectionist. And this is something that I think stops a lot of entrepreneurs is like, no entrepreneur does anything, and it's going to be 100% right. But if the best entrepreneurs are those who will get it 95% right and say, screw it, I'm going to put this out there anyway. And if you get enough 95%, if you get 95%, and then there's another entrepreneur who are scared to put anything out because they haven't hit that 100% project, whatever that thing is, that person who's putting out 95 after 95 is going to be way more successful because they didn't get stopped with the imperfection block.
Yeah, you don't have to be great to get started, but you got to start it if you want to you have to get started if you want to be great.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. A lot of people struggle with that whole I myself struggle with that a lot. It's just like
I still do.
Yeah. That's something that's ongoing is like, you want it to be the absolute perfect product, or you want it to be like, you want it to mirror like somebody that you look up to, right? You follow Tim Ferriss. So our podcast has to be just like Tim Ferriss's podcast, but it takes time and steps like to build yourself up to that. Cody, so I guess like next what we wanted to dive into with you is we mentioned briefly a little bit about the Etsy printables. So in the midst of transitioning to becoming self-employed, how were you introduced to printable products, and was it just a part of like the passive income umbrella, or did you have a friend or someone who was already into selling products on Etsy?
Oh, good question. So I got to give all the credit to the co-founder of the course that I run with Gold City Ventures, Julie. And so Julie is she's a FIRE podcast, Financial Independence Retire Early podcast host. And so I kind of knew her through the personal finances sphere. I'd met her at a couple in-person personal finance events. And she told me about these Etsy printables that she was selling in the bachelorette party space, like bachelorette games and like all these little fun things. And she was selling them for, $6 or $7 a pop. But she's like, Cody, like I literally spent maybe 50 hours last year on these products and I made $6,000. She's like, that's it. I didn't even touch my shop. And I'm like, hold on, that's over $100 per hour making these printables on Etsy. And I mean, then she's had more success since, but I was like, I got to hop on this train. Like, this sounds like a lot of fun. I'm not the best. I'm not the most creative person, but I think maybe I can whip something up. I'll test out Canva, which is this awesome free design program for people who don't know what that is. And so I just kind of tried my hand at printables and started with a couple, had basically zero sales because they were horrible. But again, going back to the iterating.
What was your first product that you tried to put?
First product, oh, this is so bad and so fitting for someone fresh out of college. It was a drinking game. It was a printable drinking game. But in retrospect, looking back on it, like who the hell is going to go on Etsy and print out a game to go and drink? Like, what am I thinking?
Before we get hammered tonight, let's go on Etsy.
Quick, Julie, pull up Etsy.
Yeah. So those were not too successful of products, but once I started diving more into the SEO and analytics side of Etsy and like doing keyword research, figuring out what products were hot, which were not, looking in Facebook groups that were in my niche and the niches anyway that I wanted to target, I started to just like see trends of like, okay, these are products that people are actually buying. Maybe I can make something kind of similar with my own spin on it. And that's when the sales started to really come in. Yeah, I mean, we can get into products. I don't know where you want to steer from here, but
yeah. I mean, I've never personally like come across this. That's why I found it so interesting, and why we reached out to Cody is because like the idea of passive income is what everyone's talking about. Passive income is you create one thing and then it sells forever after that, and what I really like about the Etsy space for doing that is that Etsy already has a reputable platform. Mm-hmm. So you're not just creating digital products and then putting them on your website, your own website or your own social media. You're putting them on Etsy's platform. And the idea is to just learn Etsy's SEO, learn how Etsy works, and then, they can sell from there. So after you did the research into the Facebook groups and into the Etsy's analytics, what products did you find like were actually like clicking and making sales for you? Like any in particular?
Yeah, so I started really chasing seasonal printables. And one of my first products that kind of took off was a Halloween invitation. So it was a Halloween party invitation, and I used this program called Cordial to make it editable. So you could go in, Nick, and you could have this awesome looking invitation. It was like $5, and you could like put your address in. You could like put the number to RSVP. Basically, you could customize the hell out of this thing. And that started becoming really popular in, was it 18 or 19? Whatever Halloween, I'm getting mixed up with the years here. Whatever Halloween that was kind of my first taste of, wow, I'm actually making real money with this thing. But the big success, and this was just the coolest moment. So on Etsy, on the app, it has this cha-ching sound whenever you make a sale. And this is several months later. So I'd made a bunch of Valentine's Day printables. So again, this is kind of chasing the seasonal trends, because you know that these are things that are going to be searched for in February. So I'd made all these printables for Valentine's Day in early January. So I already had these are already on Etsy, so it kind of builds up a little bit of that search engine optimization juice and gets the train rolling a bit. And so I'm skiing out in Lake Tahoe with my girlfriend, and I have my phone on loud because I was expecting a call. And I heard a bunch of cha-chings, like cha-ching, cha-ching, and I'm like,
we call that a humble flex, Cody.
Humble flex. Except no one else knew what Etsy was. So I hear all these cha-chings, and we go into the lodge for lunch, and I had like over $100 in sales on just these two products. Like one was these love coupons, like that people could print out and basically give to their boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever. And then these like love cards that you could put like basically the same editable program where you could kind of stick your face in a heart with your partner. Man, the next 5 days, this was probably like February 10th through the 15th, actually, for those late Valentine's presents people. I was making like over $200 a day just from those two products. And so I made just under $1,000 in a week. And I'm like, oh man, this is like, I'm onto something here.
It's great.
The light bulb went off.
Yeah, the light bulb went off. And yeah, after that, I just kept kind of chasing seasonal trends. And that's my secret sauce. That's something I like doing, is chasing the seasonal stuff. Because you know that around Christmas time, people are going to be searching for Christmas stuff. Around summer, around graduation, around Halloween, around Easter. Like you literally know what people are going to be searching into these platforms, which makes the SEO just so much easier.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And that also is like, that's what passive income, why people like the allure of passive income. You were like literally skiing, making money. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people like, I can make money in my sleep. I can make money while doing whatever I want for work I did, you know, but way before that. That's incredible, man. You were taking the Canva designs. You were designing these on Canva, like these love coupons, and then putting them on Etsy.
Some were on Canva, some were on Adobe Illustrator. And then to make them editable, I was using a program called Cordial. So that's kind of so customers can go in after the fact and edit it. But kind of a fact I want to highlight that you mentioned before, Nick, is just like the power of selling on Etsy versus just like selling on your own website. Like you said, it's like trying to sell a book you write, and you're just trying to sell it through your website, or you put it on Amazon.
On
like,
Amazon,
what do you think is going to get more sales? Amazon's going to get a cut, of course, but they're going to sell thousands more copies than you possibly could on your own.
Right. It's like the kids that are selling lemonade, right? They're not selling it like, you know, at their front door. They're selling it at the end of the street because that's where people are going to be driving by. You got to go where the traffic's at. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, okay, so you got some success with selling your product on Etsy, and now you've transitioned into creating courses to show others how to do that as well, correct?
Correct. Yep.
What would you say was like what sparked the inspiration to then transition into creating courses?
I just think seeing how I had very little graphic design background, and same with Julie. I mean, she was a little bit better than I was, but she didn't have a background in graphic design. She didn't go to school for graphic design. Like, she was just a self-taught graphic designer from basically building up her own blogs and stuff, and, you know, making images for the blog and pins and whatever. And the fact that us two could be making thousands of dollars doing this little side hustle, selling printables on Etsy, right? It's like, hey, we weren't that talented from the start, and now we're getting pretty dang good at this thing. We could probably teach other people how to use this or learn the same skill set and also make money. So that's kind of why, that was ultimately why we decided to start the course. It's like, hey, we're not graphic designers. We're not like really artistic or anything, but we are both successful with the side hustle, and now we can show you how to do it.
And Nick always hates when I say this, but it's literally the case for everyone we speak to, is that you're solutions-based people, right?
Yeah.
You like that's the whole idea of starting a business or creating any like
You're a
identify
problem
a
solver.
problem
Yeah.
and create a solution for it.
Yeah.
And you were your own, I guess, like testing product here in terms of you went onto a platform you probably didn't have much previous experience on, unless you were a big Etsy guy before.
I was not.
And then you realize that, there's probably a lot of other people out there that would do the same thing if they just knew like how to even get started.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you came up with this concept, did you find any, did you come into, have to overcome any hurdles in terms of like just typical misconceptions of what Etsy is and like trying to sell this course out there? Or were you kind of gearing this to people that are already on Etsy?
So kind of a combination, honestly, and you guys are marketing guys who've been in the online space for years now, but like even in our initial marketing campaigns and email sequences, like one of our questions we ask people is like, have you A, never heard of Etsy, B, shopped on Etsy, or C, sold on Etsy? So we could kind of have an idea of what types of customers we're dealing with. Most of the people, I would say like 80% of the people were probably had been on Etsy at some point buying something, had never sold anything.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people that had never heard of Etsy were men like myself. I had never been on Etsy before Julie told me she was making money on Etsy. I'd literally never been on the website.
I've only been on Etsy once, and that was by accident, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It was probably one of Cody's ads.
Hey, that means they're doing a good job. But and misconceptions, honestly, man, is like the biggest one is lack of confidence, and people just don't think they have the creative skills. Like I just mentioned, like they think they have to be this graphic designer or someone who just has such a creative mind and have the best revolutionary new product. But as entrepreneurs, you guys know, like, and I used to always think this, an entrepreneur is someone who goes and invents the next coolest product ever, which is so untrue. Like an entrepreneur is just someone who solves problems that other people are not willing to solve. Like it could be a product and have a slight tweak on a product that's already existing, or it could be a service that other people aren't doing that maybe you're putting your own spin on. But like these entrepreneurs aren't people that are inventing the next, I can't even think of a cool invention that's that's relevant in the last couple of years. But like you don't have to invent the iPhone, for example. Like that's not what entrepreneurship is for the most basic entrepreneurs. And I think that is a big misconception and a hurdle that a lot of people have to mentally get over before they commit to starting a side hustle like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that like even entrepreneurs struggle with that, right? Is like thinking that they're not special, or they're like, what can I really offer out there to people? It's like, I'm not Thomas Edison. I'm not out here.
Inventing a light bulb.
But like you kind of mentioned it before, it's like, if you could just, help one person, that one person could turn to two, that two can turn to four turn to eight. You don't really to free yourself financially. You don't have to, become a millionaire in a year, right? Like, it's kind of like, identify what exactly you're looking to do, write down your goals and kind of go from there. So when you kind of started off with Etsy, did you have like a short-term and long-term goals, or what's your kind of like process in terms of just goal and planning and goal setting?
Yeah, my goals are definitely a moving target. I know the first thing, like my first goal I wanted to hit was like, I want to hit $100 a week. And then I started hitting $100 a week. And then I was like, I want to get $1,000 a month. And then I got $1,000 a month. And I don't know, the goalpost just keeps on moving and moving. I'm not like, and this is honestly going back to your point about, am I a good enough entrepreneur? I remember when we first launched the course, I'm like, you know what? Like I'm not making millions of dollars on this platform. There are people who are making millions of dollars on Etsy, which to me, is first of all is mind boggling. But like you said, Fees, you don't have to be the best. Like to be a personal trainer, you don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. You just have to be better than the person that you're training. And that's kind of, that's kind of me.
I mean, think about it.
I'm extracting that.
How many trainers have you seen at gyms?
Phenomenal.
You're like, you're not a trainer. Like, but people sign up. So, hey, I mean, get it how you get it.
I'm really hoping that's not the same face that people are making when they see me as a teacher for Etsy.
But I mean, you being on Etsy, being like, hey, you want to sell something on Etsy? Like, weird flex. Okay.
Weird flex. But as long as I have like substantial more knowledge, like a substantial amount of knowledge more than the people that I'm teaching, that makes you a qualified teacher. And honestly, that imposter syndrome was so tough at first. Because I was like, hey, I'm not making $100K a month on Etsy. Like, should I even be doing this? Like, am I worthy to tell these people how they can make money on Etsy? And I'm like, of course I am. Like, they've made $0. They've never tried. And I'm making thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and what you just mentioned, that goes back to the 4-hour work week. I remember Ferris said, in order to, all an expert is someone who knows a little bit more than someone else, right? You don't have to be like this, super guru. Is like, as long as you know a little bit more than your audience, you have value that you can offer to them, with a price tag. So I think that was very important takeaway from what you just mentioned. I did want to talk to you a little bit more about, so like you offer these courses to people. So do you have like some sort of community of, aspiring Etsy sellers? And with, the people who enroll in your course, what would you say that you find like as a common question, or like, what are they struggling with? Like just for any of the listeners out there who might be thinking about pursuing this, you as someone who teaches people how to, sell products on Etsy, what do you see that people struggle with early on when they first try to step into this business model?
Yeah. So the first part of that question, we do have a group that it's just like an exclusive group for people in the course. So we decided not to do just like a general group with people who want to sell on Etsy, because once people have gone through the course, the questions are a lot more focused and they're usually a lot better quality questions. It's not like, how do I start an Etsy shop? Because they know that because they've already taken the course. So that's why we decided to do it that way, just kind of like a members only Facebook group type of thing. To address your second question, and this is kind of how we've constantly been revamping our content based on questions from people in the course, but it's basically just, this is always how it is. It's like, what do I make? And I mean, that's the same thing with any type of entrepreneurial venture. Where do I start? Like, how do I do this? And when it comes to Etsy, what do I make? So actually, and I'll give you guys a link to send this out to your listeners if you want for free. We have a seasonal product secret ebook that we give out that has like 100 different printable ideas for every single month. So kind of going back to where I was talking about, like, I'm making Halloween printables in September to make sure I'm on the Halloween train, or November, I'm making Christmas printables. Like we give a whole list. It's like a 25-page ebook of ideas. So yeah, I'll definitely give you guys that link to send out to your listeners. But that's one of the biggest ones, is like, hey, we have no idea what to make that's going to be differentiated or something that's going to sell. And we've been adapting our content constantly, like I mentioned, to have better keyword research techniques and processes to make sure that there's actually search volume for these types of products, or just giving out, like we have a list of 65 printable ideas that we just give when people join the course as a freebie to kind of, kickstart, get the brain juices flowing. But that's probably the biggest one.
Does Etsy allow you to run ads on their platform?
Yes. So they actually have on and off site ads. So you can run ads specifically on Etsy, or you can run ads on Google, Yahoo, Bing. That is going to bring you to Etsy.
Okay. So would you say for the most part,
I feel like I haven't heard Bing in a long time.
Would you say
it's like Internet Explorer?
Would you say for the most part, like your traffic is coming from, is it coming organically? Like people searching on Etsy for, let's say Halloween ideas. Is that where a lot of your traffic is coming from?
This is a good question, and I'm glad we're hitting on this because I hadn't mentioned it yet, but kind of like you mentioned before, Etsy is very highly concentrated with women. It's something like 85% women on the platform, 15% men. Same with Pinterest. And Pinterest and Etsy go together like peanut butter and jelly. People on Pinterest are typing in a problem or something that they're searching for, and they want to click on the solution. And if your Etsy product or listing can be the solution to whatever that person's searching in Pinterest, that's how you can start crushing it with sales. So during this
printable recipes,
beautiful recipes, right?
Don't take that, Cody.
I won't. It's all you, Fees. You'll be our next case study.
Yeah.
Good.
So during that, like, for example, during the Valentine's week, and kind of going back to the ads too, I had like 10 pins going, man. Like I spent so much time making these beautiful pins and running them. And one of them just absolutely took off. It had like 10,000 views or something in a week on Pinterest. And I was getting so many clicks over to my Etsy shop. And these people are literally typing in, it's like, I don't know, love card or love coupons into Pinterest. They're seeing my thing, clicking on it. They're like, oh, it's $5. Perfect. I'm going to buy this and give it to my partner or whatever. That was a huge source of traffic for me, like during my burst moments, like for specific seasons. Like that's usually when I have the big spurts. I remember also like Easter, I was running a bunch of Pinterest pins. Some were promoted pins, some was just organic traffic, but that also like just blew up a lot of my Easter printables. Now with Etsy, and this is for anyone, I know a lot of people listening probably don't sell on Etsy, but the cool thing about Etsy ads is like they are really good at allocating the ad spend. So if, for example, your product is taking off organically and you start just throwing ad dollars at it, they'll be able to repurpose those ad dollars to make multiples of what you're spending in sales. So for example, I was spending $100 a day during it was shortly after that Valentine's Day week, but I was getting $300 in sales. So it was like a 3x return. So that's the really cool thing about running Etsy ads. Like you were asking, Nick, yes, they do have ads and they have a pretty good return. Although the algorithm is changing pretty often. So you just got to kind of learn and test and go.
Yeah, man, that makes a lot of sense to me. Personally, I as Feast can probably say the same. We personally don't know too much about Pinterest. I have read somewhere the audience is like 75% women, and one of the guests that we had on our podcast, she spoke with us a little bit just of like the immense potential that Pinterest has to really bring those users to your page. So for you to connect that between Etsy, it just makes perfect sense. That was like an aha moment to me.
Peanut butter and jelly, man.
Peanut butter and jelly. I mean, that's
yes. Okay. And so what would you say was the biggest learning curve with like stepping into this business model? Because you already had a lot of experience doing so many other things. Did this kind of like just fit right in smoothly with, your skill set and your experience, or was it, like a
completely different look? Yeah.
Yeah. So nothing is smooth. You guys definitely know that. I know that.
Yeah.
But it's honestly just getting into entrepreneur mindset. I mean, like I mentioned, my first few printables were horrible. Like nobody bought them. They were barely getting any views. And for someone who has never tried entrepreneurship, that might be really discouraging and make you never want to try again and sell printables. But if you just keep making printables and keep iterating and keep doing SEO research and keep figuring out what keywords people are searching for, eventually you're probably going to come across a hit and one of your products is going to start selling like crazy, but it's because you didn't give up at the beginning. So, I mean, personally, it was a really leg up that I had kind of failed and succeeded multiple times in other entrepreneurial ventures, but yeah, that's the name of the game, man.
You weren't afraid of failure because it's not something that's gonna, it's not a final thing, right? Like failure is expected when it comes to starting up a business or when you're doing anything. Like for instance, if someone's trying to, run a marathon for the first time, you're not gonna be able to go run that the first day you go out there, or the first week, the first month, the first 6 months. Like it's gonna take. You got to build that up, and it's, it's the same idea, the same mindset in terms of just being able to set your goals down. And like you mentioned before, like moving those goalposts, or just checking off the goals as they go. Just so it's like you have like a track record of of having wins under your belt. You don't always want to just consider all the, failures, because at the end of the day, it's never really a failure if you're still going. So I take it you're still not dipping into that 36K in your savings at this point.
No, no, I am not. No, entrepreneurship has been kind to me.
So speaking of that, would you say at this point that you're happy with the decision you made at 19? I
was 22 when I quit the banking job. I was 19 when I read the 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, would you say leaving the corporate hamster wheel and kind of living, breathing the financial freedom, are you happy at this point?
Yeah, dude, it was the best decision I ever made. And funny story though, when I was leaving my corporate job, and it was just like, everyone was just like so stuffed up. No one was happy. Everyone's wife hated them or husband, whatever, what gender they were. And when I was leaving, my boss told me that I was a waste of time and resources.
Oh, wow.
So I hope he's listening to one of these podcasts about one of these days, because F you, pal.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
It's been good to me though. Yeah, I can't complain. But like, the cool thing about entrepreneurship is like a lot of people think quitting your job means like, being lazy or whatever, but entrepreneurship is hustle. Like sometimes you're working, you don't even realize you're up till 3 a.m. working on a project. You're like, oh my God, I need to go to bed. But it's fun. Like I would never, ever want to work till 3 a.m. doing corporate banking stuff. That sucks. But I don't know. The hustle and grind of entrepreneurship just keeps me coming back and trying new things and just iterating. Yeah. Figuring out the next project.
Yeah, man. Keeps you keeps you. Every day is different, right? You know, in corporate America, when you have a job, it's like you wake up and you kind of feel like Groundhog Day, right? You know, every day is similar. So that's the thing about entrepreneurship is you're constantly given new problems. To go back to the solutions-based person or problem solver, you're constantly given new problems that keep you.
Now who's using the solution-based person?
First
they hate you, then they love you, then they hate you again, Cody.
It keeps you invested into it.
I think something you mentioned that's so important there, and kind of going back to the question you asked me a little while ago, Fees, is like, I think the difference between entrepreneurship and just any corporate job or any job where someone's kind of telling you what to do is entrepreneurship. You have to find the solution yourself. And with the Etsy thing, like you could make 5 different products and you're just making products. There's no end in sight. Like your boss isn't saying, make these 5 products and you're done for the week, Cody, you're all set. Like you're making these 5 products because you think it's going to work, and you might make $0 or you might make thousands of dollars. And that's a really tough mental part of entrepreneurship is like, no one's telling you to do what to do. You got to figure it out on your own, and you're going to be wrong like 9 times out of 10. But if you keep chugging, like hopefully that 1 time out of 10, you do the right thing. And now the sky's the limit because you're your own boss.
Yeah. And that's kind of how what I was thinking when you mentioned about how you were like creating so many different like Pinterest pins.
Oh yeah.
Like it just took one of them. All it takes is just one of them to hit. And that one Pinterest pin got 10,000 views. Yeah. But before that, how many did failed before that one?
I mean, it was probably like 15 I made total. 15. A few of them were like chugging along. Like 10 of them had barely any views, and then this one had like 10,000.
It's incredible. Yeah, man. Just keep going, keep creating, and something will hit. Yep. That's important for all entrepreneurs. And Cody, so something that we always ask our guests on the show is just like, if you had to embody your business or life into just like one quote or set of words or phrase, we call it the hustler's mantra. If you were able to do that, what would your hustler mantra be? What would be one quote that you live your life by or run your business by?
All right. So this is a quote from the Navy SEALs, and it's "Get comfortable being uncomfortable." It's one of my favorite quotes. I love that quote, man. Cause like,
a great one. That's
going back to entrepreneurship. Like if you can't get comfortable being uncomfortable, you will never break through the barrier. You're just going to be slamming your head against that glass ceiling, and nothing's going to change. If you're doing the status quo, you're not going to perform differently. I forget. It's like, if you're doing something ordinary, then you're never going to become extraordinary. Yeah.
And just for like people that are generally like in that entrepreneur mindset, what's actually uncomfortable is waking up every day and going into a job that you don't own. That's actually uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And that goes back to like that. That's that instant gratification thing, is like being uncomfortable might suck for a little bit, but that's so much better than like a long period of sucking. So like, really just put that work in, be uncomfortable for a little bit, because it's do that to create something that can bring in passive income, or that long, slow, like Fee said, waking up every morning, you're uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's definitely, it's always worth it, man.
Absolutely.
So, and Cody, you've been a great guest on the podcast. I think you've given so much game to our listeners for how to think outside the box with their hustles. I think what you do is really creative. It's a unique hustle, creating these products. And it's also something that, like, back to the passive income thing, that's the buzzword for this episode, but just create something one time, put it on a huge platform, and let it work for itself. I think that's really great. You also mentioned that you have a course. If you want to just like mention your social media handles, as well as your blog, your podcast also, and where people can find you if they want to learn more about stepping into the Etsy digital product world.
Yeah, so all of our stuff is at Gold City Ventures. It's on Instagram at Gold City Ventures, Facebook, Twitter. We don't really do Twitter too much. Pinterest, if you want to check us out on Pinterest. I know you guys will have the link to the course and and that ebook down in the show notes. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everywhere you can reach me. You can definitely just hit us up on the contact button there and say hello and pick my brain and hopefully get some value out of the freebies we have on there.
No, absolutely. like Cody mentioned, we'll have all those links to provide to everybody so they can go and check this out direct and, reach out to Cody and, kind of figure out if this is the right hustle for them. There's 99 hustles out there. Go pick one. Cody, you've been an incredible guest. I can honestly say you taught us something today that,
I've learned about
Nick or I didn't really know about. And I can promise you that the Pinterest and Etsy has 2 new members signing up.
2 new hustlers.
Perfect. Once again, Cody, thank you for being a guest, and look forward to seeing what you do moving forward here, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This was a ton of fun, and hopefully I catch you guys selling stuff on Etsy.
I appreciate it, Cody.